Hi, I'm Michael,
I'm Chris.
and we're Breaking Impossible. My background is actually from Canada, which is where I had to go for 3 weeks before I could get into Hong Kong. And it's up near Simon Fraser University on a very steep hill called Cardiac Hill. Where's your background, Chris?
That is Grip's home slot, and the Sormelins 100 runs right past it in through Merfried. Basically, it's kind of the end of the first marathon.
I recently had a DNF on my effort to qualify for the Hong Kong Four Trails Ultra Challenge. I was attempting a 100-miler down in the Southern Cascades, and now I've had to regroup, and my next 100-miler will be in Nevada, a place called the
Oh,
Fire
it's
Fest
I did
100.
I did not realize it's in Nevada.
It is. So
My
it's going to
God.
be it's near Lake Mead. It's going to be easier and harder than my DNF at the one down in the Southern Cascades. It's going to be easier because the elevation gain and loss is quite a bit less. It's a lot flatter. But as Andre says, the founder of the Four Trails, 100 miles is 100 miles.
Yes, it is.
And it might be a good thing for it to be easier for me in order to be able to finish it, which right now is the main and most important thing to accomplish. And it's going to be harder because I have to travel all the way to Nevada to do it. But that's kind of a part of what we do, right? We're advocating for getting out there outside and doing as much physical activity as we can, sleep and sobriety, and travel and trail. So this trip will be to Nevada.
Sleep, sobriety, travel, and trails. Listen to you branding things.
You'd like
I had
that, yeah.
not really. Yeah, nicely said.
Tell me about yours.
Yeah, so I've talked before. I'm running the Sormelins 100, which is from a little village called Harestra, all the way down to I don't even know the name of the island. I haven't gotten that far. Done
Mm-hmm.
some recce's on the first half, the first 50 miles or so, so the first two marathons.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate to say it, I got interrupted by COVID. I got interrupted by just life, and so my recce's on just even the second part even were not all that great. But I am looking forward to it. I would say I'm maybe 60% ready. The feet are feeling okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as we talk about on the blog and elsewhere, like I just have feet issues, chronic calf tension, whatever. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be on the equinox, so on the equinox weekend. So 12 hours of dark, 12 hours of light. We start on a Friday late afternoon, so we'll probably get a few hours in before the sun sets, and then the second marathon will totally be in the dark, and that I am not looking forward to. It's a rough trail, that one.
Well, here's some more alliteration for you: illness and injury. So we both had both. I
The
had my
summer.
back injury and I was sick before I tried to do my last 100 miler. Hopefully, I'll have less of those kinds of issues between now and when I do mine. It sounds like you have at least figured out a solution, or at least a treatment that you hadn't used before to make your foot better.
Yeah, two things. So first was I got custom made inserts, so that has really helped. The pronation was driving my knee crazy, and just
Mm-hmm.
apparently aggravating the bottom of the foot. And then
Mm-hmm.
the same guy recommended dry needling. So I've done
Mm-hmm.
that twice now. The first one was nearly miraculous. Like seriously, I've not felt that good in a few years. The
Mm-hmm.
second one, I don't know. The jury is out. Um, that was a week ago. They're supposed to take like a week to settle in. So,
Mm-hmm.
ask me again on the day of the race. So here's
Mm-hmm.
hoping it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. What can I say? People
Yeah.
keep asking me, "Oh, are you ready? Are you excited?" I'm like, well, very Stockdale attitude, right? That cautiously optimistic, long term, like I'm
You're
gonna
talking
start.
about the Navy officer who was at the Hanoi Hilton with John McCain.
Yes, that's correct. No, but I mean his attitude. It's just like my attitude going in is um I was taught so a colleague of mine is also signed up to run it.
Right.
He's run some 100 milers before, so he has more experience than me. But He
Mm-hmm.
is not. He said he hadn't trained very much this summer, and
Mm-hmm.
so he's a little nervous. But he was like, "Oh, it's great that it's on a Friday, and we'll hopefully be done on the Saturday, so we'll have a day to
Mm-hmm.
recover." And I'm like, "A day?" Like, I took a few days off, the next week to recover. He's like, "Oh, that's kind of smart." It's like,
The
yes.
first the
So
first time I did a marathon, it took me more than a day to recover. I could barely walk the following day.
no, exactly. So
Yeah.
anyway, why is that the Stockdale attitude? Well, it's because I figure I'm just going to start going and tell myself, well, I've got nothing else to do this weekend, and I'm just not going to stop till I get to the finish. So
Right.
here's hoping it's in time, which will qualify me. But even if not, I really, really, really intend to get the 100 miles, which will.
What is the cutoff?
Uh, I'm. I was afraid you were going to ask that. I think it's 36 hours.
Sounds about right.
But I
Is there a
mean,
halfway? Is there a halfway cutoff or just one cutoff?
that I don't know. They have
Yeah.
several events all going simultaneously. So the 100 miles starts first, and then the next day is a 100 kilometers and a 50
Mm-hmm.
miler, and then
Mm-hmm.
all the way down to like 5Ks that all the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know if they have a halfway cutoff.
Well,
But
it's
again,
interesting.
they are not doing, as far as I know, they are not doing tracking of the racers for the race. Like, I haven't been told that there are devices or anything you have to carry. Like, I will have my own, like one of the InReach Garmin devices,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
you can see where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what, I'm going to go and do it, right? I mean, they can come and
Right.
take, if they give me a device and they come and take my device, I can say thank you very much, but I'm still going.
Well, my guess is like the last event that I participated in, they probably have a chip in the number in the tag. And when you go through certain checkpoints, they know that you've gotten there. That's how they keep track of you.
Oh, that makes sense. They didn't have that on the Secret Beach one, though.
Well,
They had
well,
physical sweepers on that one.
yeah, and they had physical sweepers on my last event, and that didn't actually work very well. Uh, it's important to note that you finished that in under the cutoff, and that qualified you at the time for the Hong Kong Four Trails Ultra Challenge.
You know what I realized about that, if I can brag? That
Yeah,
makes me forever the first American to have qualified.
well, that we know of.
I don't, yeah, I
We'll
thought
have to
we,
confirm that. I
nope,
think you're
no need to confirm that. It's a done thing.
Well, I didn't. I had a DNF that was forced because I didn't make the halfway cutoff, and which is exactly what happened in my last event. So one of the things that makes the next one easier, so far as I know, is they don't have a midpoint cutoff. Now we're talking about Stockdale, and he's written about the Stoics, and we talk about people like Billy Waugh, the former Green Beret, and David Goggins, the former U.S. Navy SEAL. We are not Stoics and we are not Spartans. We are just average guys trying to do something very difficult, right?
Stoic Lee.
Yes.
As a small aside, so the same colleague we were talking, and he was telling me about one he had seen that they run loops, right? And they're reasonably length loops, but they're loops. And the end of the loop is through the lobby of a hotel. And every time you go through, they're just like, "Would you like to quit? Or the hotel's right here. Would you like to quit?" Like,
That's awful.
yeah, exactly. I was like, that is just, oh my God. Like the mental fortitude to face that every cycle, right? Like each time you get more tired, and as it's cold outside and miserable and you get into a nice warm lobby and somebody's just like, there's a bed right here. Like,
Yeah. So the Secret Beach one and then the one that I did in the Southern Cascades recently, I didn't have a choice. I wasn't going to make
no,
the
exactly.
cutoff, and they said, "So you're out," because they don't want to have to try to deal with that after the fact, which is a reasonable thing. But it's like what Andre talks about in the Four Trails. When you get to the Hong Kong side, and especially at night, you can see down below the city. It's very tempting to quit, and that makes it a lot harder. Are you gonna, tell me more about your 100 miler, and will there be places like that? Because you're not going through a
Yes.
lobby, but are you going to be going by hotels that have a nice warm bed and a nice shower?
Yes. So the first
And at what
marathon,
point?
Yeah, so the first marathon is largely farm country, and there's really just no options. Like you just got to go.
Hmm.
Um, you could knock on some farmhouse doors or something, but you're probably likely to get a some angry person at you. But then you come into Merifried, and yes, there's lots of lovely restaurants and hotels and palaces and all of that. And then you start the second marathon, and you run through some of the suburbs there, and they're really very very small. But then you go through more farmland, and then wilderness, basically, all the way down
Hmm.
to the town of Genesta.
Hmm.
But as you come into Genesta, there's a couple of spots. In fact, when I did do my recce of that second section, I was not fully recovered from COVID and wound up having to stop at a lakeside resort, and the owner of the place was kind enough to drive me into town. He apparently also owns a hostel in town. So
So
anyway,
speaking of illness and injury, did you ever confirm that you had COVID?
I just assumed it was. In fact, the take-home test said it was not, but you know, I
You think it was a false negative?
I have no idea. I had all the symptoms that you described, but that anyone describes.
Hmm.
So I assume it was, but it could have just been a flu,
So
right?
I was sick. I was sick for weeks before I tried my last 100 miler, including right up to the day before. And I still tested negative as well. So I don't know if I was being exposed to the virus, and maybe the viral load was too low to make me get it, come down with it, or perhaps we both actually had it and we just don't know it because of a false negative test.
Yeah. So in any case, it made breathing hard, and that really sucked.
Hmm.
And yeah, so it was really, really hard. In fact, that section through the wilderness has me the most worried because we'll be going through there at night. And
Hmm.
while the trail is well blazed, so there's like orange paint, every, I don't know, 50 meters or so, there
Hmm.
are large sections. So the geology around here is very much like New York.
Hmm.
Um, Low rolling, sort of Appalachian style hills, but lots of
Hmm.
like sort of granite topped, you know, round tops basically. And so the trail will just like enter one of these big round tops, and you're like, where does it go? Like there's no footpath, you can't see a blaze in the day,
Yeah.
in broad daylight.
Yeah.
So like at night and being 35, 40 miles in, like I'm a little worried. Um, So after that, I'm honestly not too sure. I'm pretty sure from Genesta down to the next major city, which I've forgotten its name too, is more wilderness, and then it's
Hmm.
a little bit of like exurbs down to the seaside where it ends.
So does this mean that you don't have to carry as much stuff? Are you allowed to stop at the restaurants or convenience stores to buy water or food or?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know that it's either case it's allowed or encouraged.
Hmm.
The race itself is meant to encourage like exposure to the wonders of the Sormlands, which having been out there now, it's true.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
beautiful and delicious. Um,
Hmm.
Having said that, there are going to be supply stations. So as I said, there's multiple events going to be happening simultaneously. So
Hmm.
the 100 miler starts on the Friday evening. The next morning, like 100K starts, and then a 50 miler starts, and so on, and then all the way down to like 5Ks in the last portion. And I think they said for the 100 miler, it's every 10 or 12 miles, basically, something like that.
You'll have an aid
Um,
station.
I believe so. Yes,
Okay, so it's well-supported event. It's
we shall see. But I as you were picked the Dark Divide one,
hmm.
your DNF one that you keep mentioning, like
Hmm.
it's half also to just train for the Hong Kong Four Trails Ultra
Right,
Challenge.
right.
So I will be running with my full kit. So we'll
It's
see
funny
how
you
that
said
goes.
that because when we tell people that we're doing a 100 miler as a training run, they give us a very strange look.
It's true. It's
And
true.
that's part of it. We're doing it because we want to qualify, but it's also part of our training is to go out there and do a 100 miler because in order to do nearly twice that much, you need to do a couple of those.
And yeah, it's funny. at this same celebration at work, we were talking with some other colleagues, and one of them was like, "Oh, have you ever heard of this one where they run around and take pages out of books?" I was like, "Oh, the Barkley." He's like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, the Barkley. Like, have you heard of that? Like, it's apparently really, really hard." I was like, "Yeah, I've been told by a reliable source who, while I don't know personally, my partner in crime does, that actually the Four Trails one is harder." He's done both, and yeah, and he was like, "Then you're just mad. You're crazy." I was like, "I am not arguing."
Yeah, we are a little bit. Keep in mind,
As
he did
of
the four trails
today,
on his he did the four trails on his first attempt. So
yeah, he completed the challenge successfully. You mean to say?
yes, and on that note, he is also somebody who has an enormous amount of experience doing 100-mile events. That's his thing. Tomo's making it's his goal to do 100 miles 100 times. I believe at this, as we're talking right now, he's done half that many already.
Wow,
Yeah.
my hat's off. I will see,
Yeah. So
but
far,
it
the
does.
most we either of us have done is just over 60 miles
Yeah,
so far.
but going back to something we were talking about earlier, there is kind of a difference in our thinking a little bit, and I keep emphasizing how I just want to get to the end, and then
Mm-hmm.
then I'll do it again, and so for me the qualifying, the sweeps, the missing a cutoff or what have you is of very little importance to me. Like, I fully expect to actually miss that, um, but I still feel like I can drive on to get the 100 miles. So maybe, as we've talked about in other episodes, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be out there longer and it will suck for different reasons. But I feel like, as I've said, like, I don't have anything else to do this weekend, so I might as well be out here doing this.
Right.
And I do remember also when when we did the Secret Beach one, like, I don't know, just past the first or second aid station, just thinking to myself, was like, oh, I'm a guy who does this now, huh? Okay. So yeah, so that was 2019. So, and that was already 5 years into all of our overall training, right? So,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been at least 5 years that we've been training for the
oh,
four trail.
yeah, it is. We said so. I can't remember if we've told people this before. So if it's a repeat, apologies everyone. But like, I started doing this kind of nonsense when I came back from Hong Kong in 2013, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were reconnecting again because I had just returned from Hong Kong. And then
Mm-hmm.
that movie came out, and I always
The
get the name,
documentary, Breaking
yeah,
60.
Breaking 60, and challenged each other to do it. And here we are. But that was
Mm-hmm.
like, that's already 2014, 2015. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
good 7, 8 years. So
Mm-hmm.
we're certifiably crazy, long-term crazy.
Yeah. But I feel like we're improving.
I'll get better.
Yeah.
So tell me more about yours. Like, I'm totally surprised it's in Nevada. I thought it was also in Washington.
Yeah. Like I said, it's near Lake Mead. So I suspect that it's less remote than the Dark Divide, which was as about as remote as you could possibly be. But I got to tell you, despite the fact that I didn't finish, and despite the fact that it's remote and very difficult, I think I might go back next year and go again because it's also incredibly beautiful and challenging, and it's good training for the four trails, like you said. In the next video, I'll talk more about mine because mine will be getting closer by then. But it's a lot flatter, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, mine's relatively flat too. I think the
Yeah,
total elevation gain over the whole 100 miles is maybe 2,500 yards because it's meters. So
yeah.
it's not so
I
bad.
I, I had an opportunity to do a 100-mile event in Southern California that was completely flat, but it was also a mile loop, and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I think I
That
would
that
just
doesn't
go
count.
crazy just going
That's
around.
not for one thing, that's not a trail in my mind.
Oh, fine.
And And for another, it just sounds incredibly painful to keep going around and around in a circle. I don't like to do that. I don't even like out and backs. I prefer a loop or a circle or something where most of it's different throughout.
Is it a mile loop? So it's 100 loops, or is it a
It's
quarter
a
mile?
hundred, no, it's a mile loop. And
Oh,
you know, one of the finishers of the four trails is about to embark on that 3,100 mile insanity in New York. I think it's in New York. It's named after a yoga guy, Sri something or other. Anyway, he's going to be running around and around and around on a flat surface. And I mean, I admire him for trying to go that distance. It's truly remarkable,
wait,
but
did you just
I
say
wouldn't,
3,100 miles,
I did.
3,100 miles
I
around a
did.
loop?
Yeah. And people have been doing this thing and he probably
Wow.
will do it, but I wouldn't want to do it is my point.
So how many days is that?
Many.
Yeah, I mean, that's
It just sounds awful.
for doing 100 miles in a day.
Yeah, it's insanity, and not only
That's a
that, but
month. That's like a month.
it's weeks. I think. Yeah, I'll have to look it up, but it's
No,
just
no way. Okay, listen, I gotta go to the calculator. I'm sorry. Pardon me.
okay. So it's Stephen Redfern is the name of the Four Trails finisher that's participating in it. It's flat. He finished the Four Trails. He's an athlete.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, okay, so I guess I will reserve and go back to our, okay, we're a couple of
Okay.
regular Joes, because
Yeah,
like,
we're not ultra endurance athletes. Someday I would like to finish 100 miles in 24 hours.
yeah,
That's
that
important.
seems reasonable.
That's important. No, it's not reasonable, but that seems achievable to me. No, but I think that's important that we talk about that. Being average guys, if we were full-time professional athletes, we would have time to prepare for these things, and we're not. We both work full-time. And we're not like David Goggins or others that do these things that were previously, overweight or had to struggle through difficulty throughout their childhood and overcome all these great adversities. At least I can speak for myself. I'm not sure about you, but I had a pretty good upbringing. I'm an ordinary average person. I'm not an endurance athlete. Both of us are martial artists, and we have been for a long time. But if we did any running at all, it was mostly to be in shape for the martial arts that we're doing. If we did any strength training at all, it was in order to be stronger for the martial arts training that we're doing. And now we're doing strength training and running and hiking and walking and all of those things just in order to be able to be in good shape as we get older and have clear head and good physical fitness.
But it does lean into sort of our method, right? Which is to pick something really hard, to not give up on it, to measure in small increments and look for ways to improve along the way.
Yeah, and keep moving forward.
Yep. I think I told you about that picture, right? It always cracks me up when people on social media have their fabulous running photo, like either toward the camera or away from the
All right,
camera
right, right,
into a sunset or whatever.
right.
Because I'm like, who took that photo? Like somebody did. I guess you set your camera up. Like what's that? So my favorite photo though, my favorite photo is a runner and they've got their arm and it just says here, you will want to quit, don't.
Yes,
Or you will want to stop, don't.
yes.
And it's just a self picture like down, you see there, they're in their bib, they're you can see everything. I was just like, yes, I would do that. I might just do that.
Let me know if you end up doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's definitely a part of the method, right? Is to overcome that urge to quit. One of the things that I've learned from doing this, and I'm sure you have too, is that when you're doing any kind of ultra endurance event like this, there are going to be highs and there are going to be lows. And when you're feeling really good, you have to remind yourself, I'm not always going to be feeling this way in the next 10 miles or the next 20 miles or the next 30 miles. And when you reach those lows, you have to have that presence of mind to say, okay, this isn't going to last either. If I just keep moving forward, I'll get back to that feeling of I can get there. I don't have to stop. And most of the time, when people do, it's because they've made that decision to, not because they had to.
Yeah, well, I mean, you just summed up Stoic philosophy in a practical way. So we do it stoically, even if we are
Yeah.
not exactly Stoics.
Yeah, well, I mean, so there's that famous quote that's attributed to Socrates, which has to do with it's a disgrace for a man, and he said man, I'm going to say person, a man or a woman, to reach a certain age without achieving the physical strength and beauty that they had the opportunity to in life. And if you actually go back and you read the exchange between him and whoever it else was that they've recorded, it goes quite a bit longer than that. And it has to do with the fact that even back then, they recognized that by being physically active, you were more likely to still be in good fitness when you get older and also still have the ability to think clearly and less depression and less illness and all those other things that even back then they knew that you just need to get up and you need to keep moving. And you have to do more than that. You have to get up. You and I are advocating for drinking less, for sleeping more, for getting outdoors, especially in the morning and at night to absorb that level of sunlight that helps set your clock. You have to start doing all of those things as soon as you can and making them habits if you want to get there, if you want to be one of those people who when you're 70
But
and 80 and 90 can
you,
still think clearly, can still walk on their own, don't have to live in a retirement home, all those things.
yeah, I mean, you said the magic word, right? Habit. We talk about that all the time, which is people think that it's about willpower. I'll just will myself to do this. But in fact, brain science shows that actually building the right habits is what gets you to that point because your brain is trying to shortcut for conclusions and just even changing your environment slightly but yeah, habits are what get you there more than the myth of willpower.
Well, good luck on your event.
Thank you very much. I will need it. And yeah, I look forward to giving you the after action report, although don't expect me to do it right away.
Okay. I might
Oh,
give you a few days.
but yeah, do share the dot watching link, which we can
Oh yeah.
put out there from the little Garmin InReach thing.
Yeah, we should both do that. We should both do our own video of the dot watching of each other.
Yeah, great. Sounds good.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Sweet.
Keep moving forward.
We'll see you out there.